Hi guys, welcome back to our channel. If you're new here, welcome. On this channel we post writing tips, unboxings, book hauls, book reviews and the occasional vlog. And today we are doing my second quarter TBR jar. If you guys haven't seen, I'll pop a link above to the first quarter of the TBR jar. This year I decided I'm going to do a quarterly TBR where I choose 3 prompts from this jar, and also I have the book club read and the continuation of the Pratchett Discworld journey. But before we get into the second quarter, I just wanted to recap for you the books that were chosen in the first quarter and the stars that I gave them. I will pop up links to the reviews as they come out if you want to see the full reviews of those books. Before we get into those, don't forget, if you like what you see, to subscribe to this channel. Your continual support means a lot, so thank you guys so much. The first book was a reread, and that was Snowflower and the Secret Fan by Lisa C. I actually haven't done a book review on this one, but I gave this 5 stars. I gave it 5 stars for my first read. It's got 5 stars for the second read. It's a surprising read. It starts off and you hate this character, but trust me, the twist at the end, it stays with you. And I said in the first TBR video how much bits of this book stayed with me, and I couldn't remember why they stayed with me, but when I reread it, I know why. And it's one that I reread because this is the book that I was reading, I believe, when me and Matt met, and we are getting married this year in May, so I thought it would be a sweet year to reread it. I wanted to see if I still wanted to keep it or not, and as it's a 5-star read, I want to keep it. So 5 stars for Snowflower and the Secret Fan by Lisa C. The second book was Before We Forget Kindness by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. This is the 5th book in the Before the Coffee Gets Cold series, and I gave this 4 stars. It was, again, a sweet read. It once again has a cat on the cover, and there's no cat in the book, but I have done a book review for this book, so I'll pop a link to the review of it. But it was 4 stars. And the final book that came out of the TBR jar for the first quarter of 2025 was Fathom Folk by Eliza Chan. This one was disappointing for me, which surprised me. Again, I'm not going to say too much because this one is going to have a book review come out of it, but I was shocked. I didn't like it as much as I wanted to, so I actually gave this 3 stars out of 5, which is still a passable good read, as in I still enjoyed it enough, but it didn't stick with me. It's not one I'll keep in my collection, and I'm not going to be looking for the second book of the series when it comes out, but I am still intrigued by Eliza Chan's writing, so maybe when they start a new series I might give that one a try. We then had the book club read for the first quarter, which I don't actually have with me because my mum is borrowing it because I actually really enjoyed it, and that is The Watchmaker of Filigree Street by Natasha Pulley. I'll pop a picture up here of the book's front cover for you. And that book I gave 4 stars out of 5. I absolutely loved it. Again, I won't say too much because there will be a double book review on that one, because not only will I be reviewing The Watchmaker of Filigree Street, I will also review The Lost Future of Pepper Harrow, which is the second book in that duology. So those 2 book reviews will come out together in one review. But I really enjoyed it. The main reason it wasn't a 5-star was because there were errors in the book, so just spelling errors and things like that. But I did really enjoy it, so it was 4 stars. And the final book from the first TBR was The Last Hero by Pratchett, which was illustrated by Paul Kidby. This was the Discworld book I was up to for the first TBR of this year. And although it is beautiful, again, I'm not going to say too much because there will be a book review coming out of this one. Although it is absolutely gorgeous, the drawings are amazing. I gave it 3 stars out of 5. Pratchett's gone a bit backward. It is a Rincewind book, which if you're into Pratchett, you'll know they're not his best works when it's Rincewind. But I've kind of had 2 3-star Pratchetts in a row, so I'm really hoping the next one is going to be like The Fifth Elephant and Masquerade, which are definitely 2 of my favourite 5-star Pratchett reads. So I'm hoping the next one's going to be a 5-star, but 3 stars for this one. And now let's go into the second quarter TBR video. I'm so excited for this TBR jar, but before we do the jar for my 3 picks, I will let you guys know the 2 books that I have to read for this TBR. The first one is the book club read, and that is The Lost Bookshop by Evie Woods. Now this one, it is a book club read. I actually already had it in my collection because this is borrowed from my mum because she read it and absolutely loved it. So it's one I've been wanting to read this year anyway, so I'm so happy that it came up in my book club. It looks so cozy. Look at that front cover. It's so sweet. I think it's going to be a book about loving books. But let me read you guys the blurb. On a quiet street in Dublin, a lost bookshop is waiting to be found. For too long, Opaline, Martha and Henry have been the side characters in their own lives. But when a vanishing bookshop casts its spell, these three unsuspecting strangers will discover that their own stories are every bit as extraordinary as the ones found in the pages of their beloved books. By unlocking the secrets of the shelves, they find themselves transported to a world of wonder where nothing is as it seems. I think that just fell over. How sweet does that sound? So that is the book club read of this quarter, and the Terry Pratchett book of this quarter, which I have cheekily already started reading. I have very high hopes for this one. I am loving it so far. Is Night Watch by Terry Pratchett. This is a continuation of the Guard series, so Samuel Vimes, and I'm already about halfway through and I'm absolutely loving it. It's only had one thing I didn't like in it so far. Everything else, I'm in love with this book. Let me read you guys the blurb. Commander Sam Vimes of the Ankh-Morpork City Watch had it all, but now he's back in his own rough, tough past without even the clothes he was standing up in when the lightning struck. Living in the past is hard. Dying in the past is incredibly easy. But he must survive because he has a job to do. He must track down a murderer, teach his younger self how to be a good copper, and change the outcome of a bloody rebellion. There's a problem. If he wins, he's got no wife, no child, no future. A Discworld tale of one city with a full chorus of street urchins, ladies of negotiable affection, rebels, secret policemen, and other children of the revolution. Truth, justice, freedom, and a hard-boiled egg. This is the, I want to say 29th book in the Discworld series. I'll write it down here and correct myself if I'm wrong, but it's continuing the Guard series. It is a Discworld series book and it's so good so far. I won't tell you much because in the next TBR vlog I'll give you my stars out of 5, and also I will post a book review of this one. But that is the Terry Pratchett read for this quarter. And now it's time for the TBR jar. I'm actually a little bit scared because I remember the last time, I don't think I chose books that I should have chose. I enjoyed reading them, but I should have tried to get to books that have been on my shelf longer. Instead, I chose a book that, yes, has been on my shelf for a long time, but I'd already read, and 2 brand new books. I'm not going to say it's not going to happen again because I have received, if you guys follow me on Instagram, I'll pop a link below this video to my Instagram channel if you haven't. I received the most beautiful book now in my collection with sprayed edges to die for. It is the new Sulin Tan. Oh, and I kind of want to read that one. But it's not up to me, it's up to the TBR jar. So let's get the first prompt. I'm scared, okay. I'm gonna dig. First prompt is blue on the cover. Oh, blue on the cover. There are some options for this one. Does that have blue? That has blue. I've picked 3 books off my shelf for this one. So blue on the cover. It depends how much blue. 2 of these, I mean, I want to read all these books, of course I do. The first option is 4 Seasons in Japan by Nick Bradley. I believe this was one of the books. No, it wasn't. This was not one of the books I said that I have to read this year, but I do want to read it. It's supposed to be such a nice, easy read, and it's just so beautiful. It's a signed edition. I've had it on my shelf for a while. It's got a cat. Option 1. Option 2 is one I know Matt really wants me to read, and that is The Left Hand of Darkness by Ursula K. Le Guin. I believe this is one he demanded that I put on my must be read this year list, and I think I forgot which one he wanted and didn't. But that's the second option. And the third option with blue on the cover is Yumi and the Nightmare Painter by Brandon Sanderson. Now, I've never actually read a Brandon Sanderson, and I know Matt really enjoyed this one. This is one that I got him for his birthday last year. And I do know in that TBR jar, I do have a prompt to read a Brandon Sanderson because I've never read a Brandy Sandy, which is shocking. I could start the Brandon Sanderson, or we've got a classic that is a must read, or we've got a translated literature. It's so hard, guys, because it depends what comes up next. What if the Brandy Sandy comes up next? What if a translated literature comes up next? I think I'm going to go for 4 Seasons in Japan by Nick Bradley. It's a close one, it's very close. I'm going to keep the other 2 just in case, but let me read you guys the blurb of this one. Flo is sick of Tokyo. Suffering from a crisis in confidence, she is stuck in a rut. Her translation work has dried up and she's in a relationship that's run its course. That's until she stumbles upon a mysterious book left by a fellow stranger on the Tokyo subway. From the very first page, Flo is transformed and immediately feels compelled to translate this forgotten novel, a decision which sets her on a path that will change her life. It is a story about Ayako, a fierce and strict old woman who runs a coffee shop in the small town of Onomichi, where she has just taken guardianship of her grandson, Kyo. Haunted by long-buried family tragedy, both have suffered extreme loss and feel unable to open up to each other. As Flo follows the characters across a year in rural Japan through the ups and downs of the pair's burgeoning relationship, she quickly realizes that she needs to venture outside the pages of the book to track down its elusive author. And as her 2 protagonists reveal themselves to have more in common with her life than first meets the eye, the lines between text and translator converge. The journey is just beginning. 4 Seasons in Japan is a gorgeously crafted book within a book about literature, purpose, and what it is to belong. I have read quite a lot of fantasy at the start of this year, so we'll use this as a palette cleanser. Yes, that is a blue on the cover book. Next prompt. Oh, this shouldn't scare me as much as it does, but it actually does. Ah, I dropped it. Romance. Okay. So I need to read a romance, which I don't think either of those 2 are. I'm looking on these shelves, but I highly doubt these are romantic. This is sort of the heavier sci-fi, epic fantasy reads. Don't think any of them are going to be romance. Oh, but you know what is a romance? Okay, I've got 3 again, and I think they're all romances. The first one is The Split by Laura Kay. It's got a cat. This one I got from the awesome Gay on Y bookshop in Hay on Y. If you haven't been there, highly recommend it. Beautiful shop. And this one out of the 3 I've picked up is the definite romance. It's definitely nothing else but a romance. So that's option 1. I kind of wanted to read this one in June anyway. There's a nice fun option. Option 2, which I think this is a romance, and that is Mrs. England by Stacey Halls. This one is one that I said I must read this year. But are you a romance? You know, I think it's a mystery. I think that one's out of the running. I think that's more of a mystery, though it might have romance in it. And then the third option then is Immortal by Sue Lynn Tan. Look at the sprayed edges. This one I'm positive is a romance to some extent at least. Yeah, a treacherous attraction ignites. So that's kind of very romantic-y, and this is a standard romance. I don't even know why I'm looking. I mean, I really want to read this one this year, but we know it's going to be this one. We know it is. It's that one. It's Immortal by Sue Lynn Tan. It just has to be. Let me read you guys the blurb for this one. A deadly betrayal. When Lynn ascends the throne of Tianxia, she vows to end her kingdom's obligation to the fickle immortals who once protected them. A dangerous alliance. She must learn their secrets to protect her people, but to do this she will have to forge a tenuous alliance with the one she should fear and mistrust the most, the ruthless god of war. A fight for survival. A treacherous attraction ignites, but dark forces are closing in, and to save her people from an unspeakable fate, Lynn must risk everything, even her heart. Last one. Oh, I'm not ready for this. I'm not ready for this. A new author to me. Well, I mean, one of them was a new author to me, but that's cool. So a new author, I could read any of the 4 that I picked up because I haven't actually read any books by any of these authors. So out of these 4, which should be the one that I read? Part of me is thinking the Mrs. England, because I know this was one that's definitely on my must-read this year from my New Year's book tag. I'll pop a link above me now if you haven't seen that book tag. So part of me is thinking that one, but also I could read Brandy Sandy, who I know I've never read, and Matt says I will love this book. But then this is heavily fantasy. What have we got? We've got a fantasy, like a romancy, and we've got a translated literature. We've got a comedy fantasy, and we've got an easy read. So I mean, I've got all the genres that are in front of me now. Oh, which one? None of them are historical fiction, so we're gonna go for historical fiction. We're gonna go Mrs. England by Stacey Halls, the last book from the second TBR Jar of this year. When newly graduated nurse Ruby May takes a position looking after the children of Charles and Lillian England, a wealthy couple from a powerful dynasty of mill owners, she hopes it will be the fresh start she needs. As she adapts to life at the isolated Hardcastle house, it becomes clear there's something not quite right about the beautiful, mysterious Mrs. England. Distant and withdrawn, Lillian shows little interest in her children or charming husband, and is far from the angel of the house Ruby was expecting. As the warm, vivacious Charles welcomes Ruby into the family, a series of strange events forces her to question everything she thought she knew. Ostracised by the servants and feeling increasingly uneasy when her sister stops writing with news from home, Ruby must face her demons in order to prevent history from repeating itself. And after all, there's no such thing as the perfect family, and she should know. Simmering with slow-burning menace, Mrs. England is a portrait of an Edwardian marriage, weaving an enthralling story of men and women, power and control, courage, truth, and the very darkest deception. Set against the atmospheric West Yorkshire landscape, Stacey Hall's third novel proves her one of the most exciting and compelling new storytellers of our time. Alright, so that is the TBR Jar's picks for the second quarter of 2025 in my second ever TBR Jar video. Let's recap what I got. First, from the TBR Jar for a new author to me is Mrs. England by Stacey Halls. I've never read a Stacey Halls book, even though I have 3 of them in my collection. So we better get started on her books. The second for a romance is Immortal by Lynn. I mean, if you're not new here, you'll know I adore Lyn's writing, and this came out this year with its beautiful sprayed edges. So I've been cheeky and got that one on the list. And the final TBR Jar pick for blue on the cover was 4 Seasons in Japan by Nick Bradley, because honestly it's been staring at me on my shelf for like 2 years now. 3 TBR picks, and then the Pratchett book I need to read this quarter is Night Watch by Terry Pratchett, which is a continuation of the Guard series. And finally, the book club pick for this quarter is The Lost Bookshop by Evie Woods. And thank you guys so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video. If you like what you see, don't forget to subscribe to this channel. If you'd like to see it as soon as I upload, click that little bell down below. You can also follow me on Instagram, Facebook and Tumblr. I post your book pictures as well as my writing tips and unboxings on there. I will definitely be doing book reviews for all of the 5 books from this TBR video, so look out for those coming out as I finish them, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye!